So the other piece is that we had a restoration of this book here. And so this is the first time this has been seen this way in public. This is a picture of what it looked like before. It has been in this office. This is a book from 1804. It is an attestation book. 1804 is when the Worcester District became a district of the Massachusetts Medical Society. Prior to that, it was the Worcester Medical Society for 10 years. And when people joined the organization, they would have to read the bylaws and attest that they were going to follow the bylaws. And
Whoa!
So all of them
Fred,
signed.
you would have made it.
I wouldn't have.
So
No way.
everybody signed this
Right.
book, and we have signatures in here from 1804 up until 1963. I don't know what loosened us up after that. But 1804 to 1963, everybody's got a signature in here, including, and this was restored through the generosity of many of the people here, and a special thanks to Mary Ann, who paid the lion's share for this restoration. Yes, so this is a wonderful little bit of history. You can open it and take a look at it if you wish. We have pictures of certain pages. This is 1884, when we admitted 2 women on the same day. And interestingly, the Worcester District passed a resolution saying that it would be okay to admit women to the Medical Society in 1874. But we were a district of the Massachusetts Medical Society, and it wasn't until 1884 that they would allow women to be admitted.
Look what's happened.
So there you are. In 1840, there's a signature in there from Joseph Sargent. Joseph Sargent was born in the early 1800s. This is a portrait of Joseph Sargent. And we came upon this a little over a year ago. This was painted by Eben Harrington. Eben Harrington worked for the State Mutual Insurance Company in the 1800s. He was born in 1851, and his hobby was painting.
Oh.
And he was a founder of the Worcester Art Museum.
Oh.
He was a founder of what was then referred to as the Worcester Art Society. And his day job was at the insurance company. But he made the acquaintance of Joseph Sargent and did this wonderful, incredibly good painting. And kept it in his own family. It was framed, and it was kept in Harrington's family until a little over a year ago. One of the ancestors passed away, and Marilyn Harrington, who is the great-granddaughter of Eben Harrington, found this wrapped in plain brown paper with a little note saying, "Give to Medical Society." Why Harrington painted this, I don't know. And my best guess is he was in his 20s when he painted this picture of Joseph Sargent, who at that time was probably 60 years old or so. We actually have a photograph of Joseph Sargent in 1880.
Really?
You can see he's a touch older looking than here. So this was probably in 1870 sometime. Harrington at that time was in his 20s. And he painted it. When we received this, the painting was in this wonderful condition that you see it in. The frame was really deteriorating. And we brought it over to Mr. Shear, who does restorations for Mechanics Hall here. He keeps things in order there. And so he took the frame and restored it. And proud of his work, so he took pictures of every step of the way. And so you get to see him here. He's a very interesting individual and very meticulous in the work he did. And this thing here was chipped and broken in many different ways all the way around. And you look at it now, and it's absolutely wonderful.
Yeah, wow.
And as I say, he documented his work here and presented us with an album to let us know how much interesting work that he went through to do this restoration. Interestingly, he's apparently going out of this business and transitioning to making these dollhouse miniatures. As I visited him in his house a few blocks away from here, he's got all these chairs and tables and everything he makes with these very fine, sticks and everything. It's just, they're perfect. Yeah. And apparently that's his next thing. But nonetheless, I wanted you to see this. I wanted you to see these books from a historical point of view, two absolutely wonderful things that we have here in the Medical Society. And also just from the point of view of trying to perceive what we've got from a point of view of our history. We've got some things we're deaccessioning, please take. And some people have been generous enough to make some contributions to us, and your contributions are dedicated to the archive so that we can do other good things like this in the future and try to build up our history collection. Also interesting to think about with this fellow is the fact that he's very active in the society. And in those days, being active in the Medical Society meant that you could function as a censor. And so the people who signed this book passed through the censor first. The censor was someone who would examine people to make sure that they had the proper academic knowledge of the field and would treat patients well. So one of the foundational reasons for this organization was to maintain the quality of physicians and credential them. Keep in mind that the Board of Registration in Medicine in Massachusetts did not start until around 1891 or so. So we, in many ways, were a licensing authority by giving our approval. So they would function as a censor. They would function in the library to make sure that the books were up to date and available to everyone. And the main function of this organization, where the money went until 1971, was the library. When the medical schools started here in 1971, we gave them our library. We got out of the library business. But up until then, we were the medical library in Worcester. And so he was involved with the library and maintaining the funds for it, being a censor, and then being president, which he was from 1862 to 1864. Which, when you think about it, Mechanics Hall, where we're standing right now, opened in 1862, I believe it was. They had just moved, the Medical Society wasn't here then. They had just moved to the new public library, which was 1 block over on Cedar and half a block up. So that is where the Worcester Public Library was in 1862 when it opened. And the Medical Society was given rooms on the second floor there, and that's where they stayed from 1862 until 1931, when the library ran out of room and we started to move around. But good stuff, and just to complete the loop on the library connection there, Dr. John Green, who was a third generation John Green in Worcester. There were 3 doctors named John Green who served Worcester from 1757 until around 1855. John Green, the last one, started the Worcester Public Library. He donated 7,000 books. He gave them money to get it going. He pushed them to build the building. And he also, as part of the deal, said, and you need to give space to the Medical Society. So that is a little bit of a connection between the library and the Medical Society as well. So that's the bit about Joseph Sargent and that I wanted to tell you about. And then the last thing I wanted to tell you about is the fact that we are going to have a medical history bus tour the last Sunday in June. We have a number of stops around Worcester. It'll prove interesting. And what we've been able to do is not only find the locations of a lot of places that are of medical significance in Worcester, but also we've got we're renting a bus that has screens in it, and we've got some 52 slides of pictures that are 100 years old or so that we can point to something and say, here's what it looked like 100 years ago, and you can get a little bit more context.
Yes.
So there we are, and I'm thank you for listening to me, as you were.
Thank you.